how you succeed. And you do it more than just one time. You know, when I practice, I used to do it in front of a full mirror. And because of the age I got into business, with my kids, I used to practice. I do every presentation I do upside down. I mastered the skill of writing upside down. So if you want to write regularly, I can beat you upside down and you can write regularly. But I practiced and practiced and practiced because I wanted my client to do what? Be able to focus. And if I moved the paper, I watched when I first got in what it did. It took me 10 minutes sometimes to get back to where I just finished. But if I learned to do it upside down, first of all, I still remember the first person that says, "Excuse me, do you know you're doing it upside down?" I remember the first time he says, "I am?" And he says, "You no, you are." And I said, "Yes, I practiced this." And I had them do the race, and they says, "Whatever you tell me, I'm doing." But the negative with that was when my two girls got older, they said, "Daddy, I thought you were having fun with this. You were practicing on us." And I said, "But still wasn't it fun?" "Not until you found out the truth." I have one of my daughters, a professor in Ford, and her is communications. And the other daughter was the one that has her master's in criminal psychology. But I used to practice with those two girls. And I would have them see the value, and you watch my girls be able to write upside down. It is amazing. But that is a skill set you have to learn. All right, so I just threw that in for pure fun. Now, I want to go back, and I have handed out to you, I'm going to do a short review, and then we're going to go further.
Well, I got a question.
Please.
You giving a presentation, are you standing?
When I do it in front of my clients, I do many of my presentations. Do we have not in this row? So this row needs it. I actually sit when I do that, but I also, how many more do we miss on the front row that do not have this one? Who does not have this, may I ask? How many over here do not have it?
Over here, good. They're all good.
You do? So anyone in the back? Okay.
I have an extra one.
Okay, what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to start in the back, we start in front of the other, and we're going to work this way. Now, why I want to do this is you'll see how you're going to start doing your reviews and practice for yourself. So the first one is a quote, but would you read Jimbo Fisher? And no, I'm not a Seminole fan. I played in California, but he had a great quote, and I played in a pro-am game with him. But would you read what Jimbo Fisher said?
Jimbo Fisher, Florida State Seminoles football coach. Practice until you cannot do it wrong.
What does that mean for us in our industry? Practice until we cannot do it wrong. What does it mean?
Do it over and over and over.
Now, I saw with those that were former military, how many times did you have to practice what you did with your eyes closed? Did you ever have to do that? Practice with until you did it with your eyes closed, until you could do it how often?
Every time.
Every time, and do it correct. Most of the time, it was so that you protected the person to your right or protected the person to your left. You know, and so it was imperative to make sure that we practiced until we could not do it wrong. What helped me when I built my companies is the staff that I brought. I had a lot of Division I athletes, and I had 5 groups that I did in my master's program of who were 100% applicatable. I had already found and did in my master's, and I was able to have it approved. They tried to show it would be denied, and I worked. My 5 principles of finding people who could do things that are duplicatable over and over and over and over and over again actually was shown that I was correct. I'll give you an example. One of the ones that I did was athletes that had to use their trade and do it. You know, how many times does a wide receiver have to practice his plays? A lot. How many times does he do it in his sleep? As more times than he practiced it on the field. I had the wide receiver for the Washington, and he said, "Mr. McDermott, I can still do a down and out today in my sleep. And I can do a down and out on the field. And he was now in his middle 30s. He hadn't played, but I said, how many times did you do it? He said thousands. How many times in your head? It was tens of thousands. And he was a great receiver. He got hurt or else he would have continued. But he was able to mention to me that he was able to run at full speed and know when to plant without the defensive back knowing which foot was to plant for which out he was doing, which corner he went. I said, well, that's cool. He says, oh no, Mr. McDermott, let me share with you what really was cool. He says, not only was I able to plant, and I could still do it today in my sleep, but once I planted, I knew exactly in my strides as I was going full blast and that the defensive back was watching my face, my eyes, my hands, that when in my full stride, I knew by counting seconds to the quarterback, and we practiced enough times, that I knew when to take this hand back and put this hand up to have the ball hit my hand 100% of the times. How many times did he practice that?
Zillions.
That's right. But he literally, in stride, he had counted the seconds because he had practiced so many times that the defensive back was still watching, but when the one hand then now went up, the ball would hit his hand in that stride. Now, that is amazing, is it not? And then I had one of the linebackers for Arizona, and he was the call player. And he would say, Mr. McDermott, I can share with you that I can look by the eyes of the quarterback, and I would read the lineman, and I would make my calls. Calls for the entire defensive set. And what his job was doing that, and he says, I could do it in my sleep because I would visualize watching the eyes of the quarterback. Even the best of the quarterbacks, they still show their eyes because they cannot control the enthusiasm of when they're going to release the ball. Even the one who just made Hall of Fame,
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. Brett Favre says, I would pump, and they would every time do what?
Jump.
They would jump because he triggered the eyes as though he was literally throwing. And the defensive backs, the coaches would say, don't get fooled. The coaches over and over and over. He's going to pump and don't get fooled. He says, watch his eyes. But he changed the eyes every time in the game that he says, well, what I'd do is I'd wait and I'd pump fake, but I threw the ball already as I pump fake. And the defensive back was, oh crap, he's really going to throw the ball. But what did he do? He pulled it back. Defensive back was left. The receiver had already gone, and he would just say, oh crap, I should have listened to the coach. You know, it was done. But doing that and being able to understand these systems, we did athletes, we did military. The one that was absolutely shocking was disc jockeys. What does a disc jockey have to do every day? The same stinking thing. What is that? Play music. And how enthusiastic do they have to be tomorrow as they were today? And what are they doing every day? The same thing. I found out they were 100% duplicatable. But what was an advantage is I found two who were once Division I athlete who served in the military and was a disc jockey. Do you know how disciplined that individual was? To be able to do what? Over and over and over. We had a team of 25 in our company, and the next team that equaled our premium had 150 people. We had 25. So what did we know that they didn't? The systems and the ability to do that. That's what I'm hoping I can share with you. If you take ownership of these systems, you will make it your own, and you will do it the same way every time until it is yours. And you do it with enthusiasm. That's the key. And how to overcome the objections? You do those overcoming objections with the same enthusiasm, and when they ask questions and you help them answer, they will always be very close. And you have that fun. I wanted to do so with the next one. If you look, let's go bring it down. What's the next one that we have lined?
Take ownership. Make this your system, perfect your language, and get your toolkit ready.
All right, what did I show you my toolkit? How simple is that toolkit? Now, I want to show you why I did from trial and error is I use what? silver dollar. I do not use a quarter. I do not use a nickel, a penny, or a dime. And I'm going to share with you how I learned this system. People said, no, you didn't. I said, oh, yes, I did. Watch in the air the rotation, if you would. Try to visualize yourself as a Social Security recipient. Watch the rotations, if you will, Matt. What can you see visually? Did you see it turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me if you see this. No, but again, what is it, what's happening? What are we trying to teach with our tools? Visualization. If you don't give them a chance to learn, how can they retain? Everything we've shown is for visual reasons, because they will retain that, enabling you to enroll them into a program. That's why we have the tools. You can go get the $2 bills by going to a bank on a Monday and saying, I want 6, 8, 10, whatever you want. They will have them ready by Friday. Someone said you couldn't do that. So I flew in on a Monday in an area that says, we can't do that. So I called the bank, walked in myself. Did they know me? No. I said, this is what I want. I want it by the end of the week. I had the silver dollar, the $2 bills, I wanted everything. It was all in a little package. I came in, gave them the money, and they gave me that. And I said, you're right, it doesn't work, but here's how you do it. Any bank will do it, any credit union, but you have to ask. Right? Next one, if you read that.
Silver dollar, we use these specifically for their size and weight, simple for flipping and catching, is that the one?
Yep, in other words, Phil, if you would, when you were doing that, Phil, would you put your hand, what do you notice there? But now silver dollar. What do you notice?
Yeah, you want to hold on.
Now, if you can hold on to it, can you visually, conceptually, if the feel is there, what can our brain start doing when we see it? We can catch it. We are then part of the example. We are part of the learning. So all the tools that we have, we've given you that each of you can go get this and to use it. Someone asks, do you really do this? Guess what I do? I really do this. And I also have a chance, thank you, to do joint calls. Well, one of the RSMs, I was in an area and they said, will you go do a joint call? I said, no problem. He says, you haven't asked why I want you to do this. It's with an attorney. I said, I'd be happy to. So we got to the attorney, true story, with our little toolbox. And the attorney came in, and here the two of us come in, the agent and myself. This is how he greeted me. You got 20 frickin' minutes. Sit down. That was my greet. No problem. So I knew how much time I had. It was how much? 20 minutes. And he used those words, so I knew it was 20 frickin' minutes. No problem. He was a trial attorney. That's why I use colorful language. Right? But he gave me that amount of time, had me sit down, and he brought out 2 proposals. We were the third dude in the group. Guess what the other 2 proposals were that we were going to show him? The same as the one he already had. He had already been presented from 2 other people, the Allianz 222. The agent that I was asked to go close with to do the enrollment also was proposing in one. The same one, Allianz 222. I found out that one was his buddy, the other was a former partner, and this is a third. So how well do you know the other 2?
Pretty well.
How well do you know the ASB dude?
Not well.
Not well. How well do you know me? 0. Not at all. All right? So we went through, he had read the proposals how many times if you're a trial attorney? Oh my gosh. He knew that inside and out. He says, I have these 2, and what are you going to propose? So what do you think the ASB guy did? Did the same thing. You know? So the first thing I did was said, you know what, of all 3, this is the best in the industry for what you're asking, hands down. I'll compliment your friend, I'll compliment your partner, compliment the ASB person. This is correct. May I ask, did any of them explain how it works? They knew the proposal inside and out. How many of them knew how it worked? No. What did I bring out? My tool.
Concepts.
And I went through concepts after concepts. He only gave me how much time?
20 minutes.
After 2 hours, he asked, will you still stay? I had to take the plane. I says, I now will tell you, I only got 20 more minutes. And he looked at me, he says, only 20 more minutes? I said, yes, that's all I got. I got to catch a plane. So we went through, and we went through every concept, just as I had shared with you today. We including what I'm gonna do once we go through this review. And who do you think had the opportunity to enroll? Even though it was his former partner and his buddy, he only met the ASB the first time, he had never knew me. But no one had done what? Explained all the moving parts and concepts that we did. That's what gave the advantage of what we were doing. So having a toolkit and knowing the language will be a tremendous blessing for you and a benefit in explaining. So after the toolkit, go to the next line, please.
10 $2 bills specifically because they are given to branch kids to teach the importance of savings.
All right, so again, we're only doing what? We're teaching all the time, are we not? Please.
4 $1 million bills for seminars, high net worth clients, big cases, etc.
I have fun, and so literally, I carry with me, besides the $2 bills, this is no joke, I never fit to you, I do what? Touch that. That is real paper. Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you a true story with this one, but touch the money. That is the same paper that they use for the regular money, but it's $1 million bill. The annuity store, when I owned it, we used to do an award every year. Well, we do it now. You have received one of our awards every year. All right, and what does it have on their $1 million bill? Right? Okay. Did anyone remember over 15 years ago of watching the program Incredibly Stupid Criminals?
Yeah.
Remember that? That was a real program. Well, I will tell you that we were on that incredibly stupid criminal because we were catching them because in Florida, one of our agents, had received an award and put his $1 million plaque on the wall. It's a true story. Now this is what's really interesting. So the criminal comes in and takes all his computer stuff. As he was leaving his office, he happens to look up, and what did he see on the wall? $1 million bill. And he was going, how can that be someone that stupid to leave $1 million in the office? And so he did what with that $1 million? Why? He took it. But how they caught him? No joke, he went into a federal bank in Florida and demanded to break it in smaller pieces.
Oh my gosh.
It's a true story. This numbnut had just broke the frame, carried the $1 million to a federal institution, says, you know, I can't carry around any longer $1 million bill. I need smaller bills. So the other person on the other side just rang the bill like, we got a wacko here because there's an assistant. Sure enough, he was the one that was caught stealing all those computers out of the offices. Don't use the $1 million. But it's concept, right? And so I have fun with those that think that they can't use the $2 bills. I throw out the $1 million. Right? Now, next, let's go further down.
$1 million bill from.
Or you can, I can actually give you how you can order it, so we can actually get it. All right, so the next one, please. Go down to, would you?
Would you allow me to share with you the moving parts conceptually by playing a game?
So how do you trigger starting this game? Would you allow me to share, right? You want to memorize that approach to asking. Now I'm going to show you, would it be all right with you? You know, how to allow me to share. Those are the ways that you approach it. Then you have the website. Go to use the website, how to play the game. Now, did you notice, what does it say in put? What does it do?
Put silver dollar in hand, make sure nobody's cheating, please. Check if there's a heads and a tails.
Now, immediately, what has to happen if you start your game that way? What are you doing from the very get-go?
Showing honesty.
Yep, and making them what? Relax, participate, feel comfortable, but knowing that you are a fair player. That's what we need to get across, all right? The next one.
Ask, can you flip a coin? More importantly, can you catch it?
And why do we want to do that? Do we want to ever embarrass somebody?
No.
Because if they can't, you are going to do that. And if you can't, roll it on the floor, you know, do something. But the key is you need to show and demonstrate the concept, but don't do it at embarrassing someone else for it. All right, would you come to the next one? Okay.
Anytime it's heads, we're going to credit gains to the principal.
Okay, remember what I said that you want to memorize? What are you going to have them physically do? Your client, you're going to, once it's a heads,
Move their $2 to their pile.
they have to do it. Don't you do it. make them physically touch it and place it over? What is the brain automatically doing for them instead of you doing it for them? I win. They're also in control of the game. Ownership in anything is never as important as what? Control. Remember that. I told you to get that. Remember. Okay, next one, please. Concept.
Anytime it's tails, I'm not going to take anything away from you.
Right? So what are we trying to do here? What are we physically making them say back when it's the tails? Can we get any of your principle? No, what about all those crediting the gains? Can I touch that? No, so what is the worst that's going to happen with the tails? Is that all right with you? And I'm asking continually, would that be all right with you? I want permission all the way through, but eventually they're going, yeah. Because it's now clicking, it's making sense. After, and then the next one, please, after several flip coins, please.
Okay. You don't want to do the principal of credit gains? After several coin flips, ask how long would you be willing to keep playing this game?
And how long would you be willing to do it?
Well, I'd just rather go ahead and enroll.
Enroll, and that's okay too. But the key is what? How long will your client be willing to do that? And if they enroll, you're going to help them do it how long?
Forever. As long as they want to play the game.
That's right. Isn't that simple to be able to have that? All right, next page. At the top of the page, please.
How does this concept work conceptually for every dollar of your principal it turns out to be?
And now remember, let's do it. What did we do? Would you, if you took the dollar, would you please show everybody how simple we did with that dollar? And how easy is it to memorize? Look at, so we physically do what? We take the dollar and we automatically do 1/3, 2/3. How easy is that? Because what do they have to do now when they're seeing it visually? All right? And that because this is a contract, right? What is the 2/3 going to be used for? To purchase what? Remember? Bonds. Right? And all the guarantees. Pay the expenses. Oh, by the way, I'm an expense. I get compensated for the services I render. Is that all right with you? But the company pays me, not you. Is that all right with you?
That's fine, great job.
Okay, but what am I doing immediately so that doesn't come up later? How do I get paid? How do I get compensated so they don't know I'm just commissioned? And then with the other 1/3, how simple is that? This is also a contract. What do they do with this third? What are they going to do with this third? Remember, it's used to purchase call options. It's contract. Remember we did the definition? This is a contract. So it's automatically purchased, which sets up the opportunity to explain surrender charge. It's not an ugly word, surrender charge, if it's explained properly and honestly. Don't make things up. It's going to get back at you and bite you so that it's going to eat you up. But if you just honestly tell them, they're going, wow, that makes sense. I'm willing to do that because it makes sense. All right? So next section there.
Let's look at what happens with the call option.
All right, how simple was that? The heads, what happens to a call options?
Exercise.
And if it's a tails,
You let it die.
it expires worthless. Is that not simple? But it's again, is it an investment or a contract that they do?
Contract.
It's a contract. That means that there's certain things has to happen, right? Isn't that an easier way to explain that? Pretty simple, isn't it? Really simple. All right? And what are the insurance companies not trying to do? Remember the flip of the coin? I'm going to let you in the air. Will you this time call it is so that you can figure it? All right? Go ahead. Very close. There's only- let's try again, all right? Go ahead, in the air, please.
Heads.
Oh, how close were you?
Very close.
Very close. It wasn't, but it was very close. So they're not trying to outguess, outthink, or outperform what? Mark, because it is the C word.
Contract.
Because if it's a heads, what has to happen with the call options?
Exercise.
If it is a tails,
Expires.
there's no guesswork. Does that make sense? It's a contract. That's the uniqueness. Okay, let's go to the next section there. It goes through the website, then back to your income. How easy was it to explain the income? What did I do with you? I put $1 down, and then I did what? I took a nickel with some pennies, and I said, there's no free lunch. There's an internal cost, but would it be of value for you if you knew that you could get 7 cents on every dollar that you could never outlive? Would that be a value? But Matt, if I could have a heads, mean the market's up, and can trigger that you can have more income that could never be outlived, would that even be a greater value? That actually has a cost internally for that benefit. But would that be all right with you if you could have a guaranteed income, but as the market goes up, you can actually have that income be accumulated to a higher amount? What are we doing? Are we permission to do what? Give them a benefit that who's beneficial for it? The whole time. They're going, yeah. Well, that makes sense. All right, next one, please. What's the next concept? How can you help people understand annuity is safe? That's why this one's up. I'm going to put a timeout now. How important is safety?
Very.
And if you had a system to explain it, wouldn't that be a hoop load of fun? And I'm going to share that system of how safety can be explained over and over and over again. And I do it by going back. When was the first annuity? When did it start? Roman Empire. Do you know when it came to the United States? What year did it come to the United States? Anyone for fun?
1950.
Very close. Very, very close.
1929.
Very close. 1929. Okay, they started roughly that time to the United States, but has there ever been a loss of a fixed annuity ever in the history of the United States? No. All right, so we know that they've been around, that when they started, there's never been a loss. That's pretty cool so far, right? But how do we explain this element of safety? I want to show you that there are some unique ways that you can memorize and do over and over so that it actually is fun to explain the uniqueness. Here is the first one. State Insurance Department supervises all aspects of insurance company's operation, including periodic company examination. How many times do you think I've said that? More than once? Now, here's the beauty of it. The state departments get paid to come regulate. They only used to do it once every so many years, and they did it once a year. Now they do it once a quarter. If a regulator is coming and visiting your books once a quarter, what are they preparing the policyholders to know ahead of time? If there's something wrong, right? So is that not a safety valve? There's your first safety valve. The next one is just an absolute hoot. The legal reserve system. Now, time out. How does the legal reserve system work? And it's a requirement for every insurance company, no matter what their rating, A, B, C, D, or F. They all have to do the same. $1, that's right. So that means every dollar that they receive, what do they have to reserve legally? Plus whatever the minimum interest rate this company is stating that they will have for the money. So if it is a 3%, it'd be 3 pennies. If it's 1%, it's 1 penny. If it's 0, it's then just the dollar for dollar, right? That's with every company, no matter what their rating is. So even an F company, how safe is their annuity? Pretty deadgum safe. And if an insurance company bellies up, the first policy holder paid is guess whom? Is it the bond people?
No.
It's the annuity policy holders. How important is to memorize that one? The first one paid if a company bellies up is whom? An annuity. So pretty safe, is it not? Great concept, great story. But let's go to the next one. Now, when you come to comparison to a bank, for example, the FDIC, what is the legal reserve requirement for the FDIC? And you can go to the library, you can also do it just on your telephone and print it, but what is the reserve for the FDIC? Does anyone know? For every dollar, how much do they have to reserve for every dollar?
0.3 cents.
Penny and a third. So that means for every dollar they take in, they only have to reserve how much? 1 penny and a third of that, compared to $1 plus whatever the interest rate is, which is safer. Come on, right? That's the difference of the safety of an annuity is in its reserve. Now what about the state? The state has a state guarantee, right? What is the annuity state guarantee for the great state of your state? What is it? How much? 300,000 per annuity? Is that what it is? I don't have it. All right, so that means, like the FDIC, if you go to a bank, it says 250,000. That's per Social Security number. Well, that also would mean if 300,000 for annuity in your state is 300,000 per social security number per company. Same concept as what? The FDIC, right? But again, you go backwards, the annuities have how much as a legal reserve? $1 plus, and they only have penny and a third. That sucks, doesn't it? There's not much of a safety. Now, this last year, if you go to the Federal Reserve and you read what they did make a change on, how long do you think the Federal Reserve has to pay off those bad debts?
Forever? No.
Used to state 99 years. You know what it says now? This is true, in fact. You go in there today, it says as soon as possible. No joke. It says that. So you can email back and say, how long as soon as possible? Their answer comes back as soon as
Very
possible.
close.
And you say, no, I'd like to know how soon is soon as possible. And they'll communicate with you, and it says, as soon as possible. Oh, that's a great answer. So how soon will they pay it off? As soon as possible. What does that mean?
As soon as possible.
Nobody knows. Because they still have proof that they haven't paid off several banks yet. All right, so concept, that's important. Now what about ratings? Standard & Poor's, you ever heard of Standard & Poor's rating agency? We've heard that, right? Now, their whole purpose is to do what? Regulate and rate, correct? That's what they do. The companies that we are representing with American Senior Benefits are mostly all A rates. We have a couple Bs, but mostly all A rates. What do you think the rating of the FDIC is? Just for the hoot of it. What is their rating? Maybe at least A's, some B's, but what is their rating? Just for fun. Not? I like that answer. What do you think? F. Very close. This is closer, but I like your answer. F. My first year of playing ball in college, I still remember the coach in the film room. And the film room had a huge section in the middle for the film area, and then we sat, and he proceeded the very first day. He says, fellas, all of you who get A's, I'm going to hug you and you can play on my team. All of you get B's, I'm going to high five you, you can still play on my team. That's great, get a B. All of you get C's, that's what I got in college, just as coach said. That's what I got, and I'm going to give you high five and a hug because I got both. I got a lot of C's. All right, those of you who get D's, you get to watch the game on the sidelines. Those of you who get F's, you have to watch it out of Coliseum. That's my rules. So what do we know as kids starting our very first day of practice? Get an A, you're in good shape. B, good shape. C, okay. But if you got a D, what are you going to do? You watch the game where? But if you got an F, you watched it where? Out of the Coliseum. That kind of sucks, right? That's no fun. So let's look at the rating of the FDIC. Here we again have the pennies. Now we'll go over here at the rating. They're not FDICs, that's a real blessing, isn't it? Let's see why it's not a blessing. CDs are safe because they're insured. Is that true? Now, let's look at the bottom. What is the rating they got? The last rating they had, 8, 12, 91. What does it say? That means they have a below F rating. An F minus. What would they be able to do if they played ball in California?
Never couldn't watch the game.
They could watch it outside the Coliseum, right?
They have to watch it.
Outside the station.
I'm not going to do the SEC combating which team doesn't have the ability to pass their test. I won't do that because again, I'm from the West Coast. We don't do that. I'm just kidding. But why this is important? Two stories. The day after this, they rated. The FDIC did call it Standard & Poor's. You can read the whole letter. The day after they got their rating of below F rating, the FDIC called the Standard & Poor's, asked to speak with the president and CEO. He says, what do you do for a living, Matt? What do you do? You're the president of the Standard & Poor's. What do you do as a living? You're the CEO. I want to talk to you next. But what do you do as a president of the Standard & Poor's?
We rate the companies based off of their ability to pay their claims.
All right, and you're the CEO. Are you the tax dude that makes sure that that's correct, what he's doing?
Absolutely.
Would you continue to like to represent and do this for this Standard & Poor's company?
Sure.
All right, you won't be rating us anymore as of today. Is that all right with you, Matt?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good. That is how they're no longer got rated. They were given an option, either go unemployed or do what? Be unemployed the next day anyways, because it'd be stopped. That's the power of the federal government. Think about it. That's what they gave us options. So what are they rated today? They're not rated. Why? Because their last rating was
Have fun.
So if you ask them, what is your Standard & Poor's, their answer almost goes back, as soon as possible. They're confused, right? They don't know how to answer it. I always just type the same thing, as soon as possible. Have a low effort. Concept.
We have that in the
Now, how fun is that? That's automatic, right? Now, all of these deal with different forms of protection. Is that not true? I have a black one of these, and I'd recommend if you want to restore one, don't. Because once you start, what happens? Oh, you gotta keep it until it's done, right? I went ahead on mine, I have a tubular frame on mine, and I have an LS1 racing engine, 750 horsepower before it's supercharged. It'll go 240 miles an hour. But do you think aerodynamically that'll go 240 miles an hour? No, and don't try, because it will actually do this, flip. So at 180 miles an hour, you would actually have flipped. I didn't go 100 past 180 because it does. It's just aerodynamically it won't do it. But the purpose of sharing this, all of these have legal reserve. Annuities is the only one that has what type of legal reserve for every dollar? $4. Out of all insurance, only annuity has $1 for dollar amendment stream. That's why we have such a tremendous story to tell. Now, I love telling this story, and I use this so many times, but especially when I speak to audiences, when I do client appreciation or just pure seminars. Who's this a picture of? Does anyone can recognize who's that a picture of?
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth. How many of our Social Security recipients truly know who this person is? Most, right? And so I use this story with most of my Social Security. If they say, I don't know who this is, then I tell them, it doesn't matter, right? I just move on. But most of them will say, I know that picture. That's old Babe Ruth. That's right. How many home runs did Babe Ruth have when he finished his career that was put on his baseball card? Does anyone know? How many home runs did Babe Ruth have? You're going to be very close no matter what your answer is. Just go ahead and throw one out, right? 714? Lovely. You were very close. 714. It was on his baseball card, but Babe Ruth was credited with 715 home runs. It was in the Sports Magazine and Time Magazine. So, are they lying? Did they lie? And did the baseball cards lie? Then who's telling the truth? He got one home run, but it was a financial home run. What happened was Babe Ruth, in order to have an inside the ballpark, because they thought, well, maybe he had an inside the ballpark home run. Did Babe Ruth ever have an inside the ballpark home run? No. He was how slow? Unbelievably slow. It said for Babe Ruth to get an inside the ballpark home run, the center fielder, the left fielder, and the right fielder would all have to do at one time what Babe Ruth did every third inning. Does anyone know what Babe Ruth used to do? The older he got, what he did every third inning? He ate a hot dog. Can you imagine playing professional ball in every third inning, eating a hot dog? Give me a break. But that's the only way Babe Ruth could have got an inside the ballpark home run was by having the center fielder, left fielder, and right fielder go off the field, have a hot dog. They'd probably still tag him out. He was that slow. That's amazingly slow. But it was stated that old Babe Ruth, literally, yes, on his baseball card, he had 714, but he was credited with 715. How in the world did he get it? And this is a great story from our history. The crash of 1929, most of the baseball players were totally broke. Babe Ruth was over 90% whole. So he was credited with a financial home run. Where did he solely have his assets? Over 90%. In an annuity. Isn't that a great story? That he weathered the stock market crash by having, thank you, his money literally in an annuity. Now, this is his quote, and I would memorize it. It's in your website. He said when interviewed, when he was credited with the 715th home run, he said in the interview for Time and USA Today, or Sports Illustrated, was, I take a lot of risk with my money. He said that, word for word. And he says, I take a lot of risks with me, but for my money, I put my money in annuities. I take no risks. Quote. You can use that, and you can print it literally there for you. All right, will you hit the next one? Now, so we enabled the stock market. One more. Now, where did the next year the stock people come and say, oh, but Babe Ruth struck out. Now, if it's on national TV, Babe Ruth did what? Had a home run financially by putting money where? And not into where? The stock market. How pissed would you be if you're the stock market? Pretty upset, right? Because what are people going to think about? Oh my gosh, I don't want to have that happen, right? But they said Babe Ruth, click the next one. Babe Ruth struck out the next year because his annuity was an income he could not outlive unless he did what? Died. Now, is that the only option we have today? So even if he bunts, he still would do what? Get to first base. How important is this idea of safety? Pretty simple, isn't it? Click the next one. So, when it comes to income and benefit riders, go ahead. We literally have all of this option that you can do as riders. Go ahead. Thank you. One more. So these are all the choices that we have. When you call Greg and you have asked the question of the value finder, he can actually shop for you and give you what you need in the presentation right to the nth degree of what that client said was a value for them and the benefits they wanted. Okay? How easy is that? Pretty simple, isn't it? All right, I'm going to hand out this next one. Would you be kind enough? Sure. And just pass that back.
Okay.
Oh, the wrong ones. I'm sorry.
Oh, you know what? Wait, here they are.
My fault.
I got it.
Okay, and then the next one, would you be kind enough, please, sir? And then the last, get that out in the back. Would you hand it out to the back, please? Did everyone get? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Perhaps one of the most important systems that you need to take ownership of is the one that we're going to explain now. And by doing so, when I am enrolling into a program with a client, and I am actually finishing the enrollment process, where are we missing? Excuse me, sir. I ask every time. So how often do I ask? Every time, because it's a system, right? So I ask this question. As I'm enrolling, I just simply ask, was this a value for you? Now, if they say no, tear it up, because they're not going to keep it in force, right? Don't waste your time. I set that up on purpose. Because if they say hesitation, no, Matt, not really. I do this in front of them. I tear it up. And they go, oh no, I was just joshing. Well, I'm not joshing. Was this a value? Because I don't like chargebacks. How many of you like chargebacks? You like chargebacks? I don't get any chargebacks because I have a system, and that's part of my system is asked, do you feel, Matt, that this was personally a value for you? And I'm writing this out. And they're going, well, yes. It says, I actually get compensated two ways, Matt. Would you like to know both ways in which I get compensated? I'd love to. Now, what did I offer him? To overcome, I'm a commission person, right? I already asked them right now, would you like to know the two ways in which I get compensated? Now they're thinking, well, I know one way, I think. What are they thinking about this commission stuff? Because we're no longer commissions. We get what? Compensated for our services. We don't use that word anymore. From here on out, there is no commission. We get compensated for the services which we render. So I said, all right, Matt, would it be all right if I explain the two ways? The first way I get compensated is the opportunity and pleasure of enrolling you in a program to get the benefits you find of value. And anytime you need my services, I will be able to be here and review, or if I have questions. That's one of the ways I get compensated. I get compensated actually by the insurance company, not by you, but the insurance company. The second way is just as important as the first. Now, you found this a value, correct?
Right.
You feel this to be a value for anyone else?
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
All right. What's your favorite pie, Matt?
Apple.
Did you see his eyes? What did his eyes do? That's exactly right. Just like that linebacker reading the quarterbacks. we want to do what mentally to our people? We asked them, do you feel this is value to you? Do you feel this to be a value to others, right? What is going through that individual's mind? Who do I know? But then I immediately, before that went into too deep in the brain, I asked what?
Favorite pie.
What is your favorite pie? Why do you think I did that? What is the brain doing, literally? And I learned this when I was 23 years old. I'm 60, I just had my birthday, so I've done it 37 years, right? What is it doing when you think of that pie? What was going through your mind, Matt, when you think of pie?
How do I get that pie?
How do I get that pie? Isn't that true? Honestly, how in the world am I going to get that dadgum apple pie? And here's how I do it. I said, Matt, I would personally like to present you an apple pie. Would that be all right with you? To personally present you an apple pie?
Sure.
I'd love to do that. And now, how I'd like to do that is the opportunity and privilege of working with others just like you. 3 to 5 people with their best telephone. Would that be all right with you?
Sure.
Okay. I actually have a form. It's in your stuff that you can customize and just put your name on it. Or you can customize even more. The Wayne Grade region all of them have their own customized form. It's very simple. It has 3 to 5 names on it, so I have 5. You can do 3 to 5. I always put 5. And I have a spot for the name and the what type of telephone number?
Best.
Best. Why do we ask best, not telephone number? Why do we want best telephone number?
So you can reach them.
What do they? Whose number are they going to use if they call them? The best number, not their home, not their work, not their whatever. We want the best telephone number. This system, if you will use, will create an opportunity of 3 to 5 referrals or recommendations per household every stinking time. But you have to have fun with it. But the most important part is the presentation. You need to present to Matt that pie, that apple pie. Now, the presentation is also a system. I have so much fun because I love to use my personality, because if I do it right, what will they give me more of? Referrals. And recommendations. This is no joke. When I am doing my presentation, and you can check with some of the ones who just recently started doing it, he went ahead and got an apron, you know, the baker's apron, and he got a hat. This is fun because he's going to their homes. He's living his word, but he added the apron and the hat. Now, when I go to the home, before I ring the doorbell, I am just like this. Then I ring the doorbell. Now, can you imagine the reactions I get when they open that door, and I'm like this? What are they going to do? They will do that, but what also will they eventually have to do with me presenting this? They must receive. Look at the dictionary, and you'll find that receive is an honor to be blessed. Think about it. What are we really trying to do with this concept? We're going to give them the apple pie, but by presenting it, it's an action to show what? Not just trust, but it shows and represents a blessing. I found that interesting because I went to the dictionary and I looked it up, and having it being fun in a presentation format enabled me to do what? Get what? The opportunity to not only present, but the opportunity to serve. I'll give you this counsel. I would not recommend, if you're doing this on a regular basis, which I did and you need to do, is to stop and have an apple pie every time you deliver a pie. Because you'll go from your frame to what I had before. I played football in college, but it was in the wrong position. I played ball at 222 pounds, as 5'9", had a 52-inch chest. I was just a little midget. I was almost as wide as I was tall. And when I got into business, I shrunk that size, but I almost got up to the same weight. Not a good thing, because I was doing what every time? I was trying to have fun and have a piece of pie. But I learned from it, and I said, would it be all right with you if I ask a favor of you?
Sure.
for my piece of pie, would you ask one of your neighbors who's having a tough time or just going through something or just that they need a pick-me-up? Would you do that for me with my slice of pie?
Sure.
What do you think they started doing? They were calling their neighbors, and that's exactly what I triggered in the community. Now, first of all, think of you getting out of your car and you putting on a baker's bed and you put on a hat. What are the neighbors doing? Besides calling 911. Oh my gosh, my neighbor's gonna get robbed as a baker. How horrible is that? But when they start having their neighbors come over and having a piece of pie, what triggers the conversation?
How did you get the pie and where did it come from?
That's exactly, and so they had a story, and I tell them, just mention it was the pie guy. Now, would you do me a favor? Would you tell him the pie guy, have you do that, and he just specializes in 3 phases of routine. Would you do that for me?
Yeah, sure.
So what do you think started happening?
Just wonder how I can get a pie.
Right? How many times, honestly, do you receive a telephone call once a week asking you to come over and explain how the pie got there? Do you get that often? I was getting calls once a week. You know how much fun that is? Knowing who the heck is on the other side. But they want me to come where? To the home. It's systems. Systems actually work. When they had too many pies, if you think about it, if you're averaging 3 to 5, every time they gave me 3 to 5, I gave them another pie. 3 to 5. So if they're giving me 15, they had how many pies? 3. Right? Because it's 3 to 5, and so I rotated it up because they were having so many pies. I'd give them 3. Okay. After the 3rd pie, are they excited about pies? Not necessarily right then, because they've already had how many? Because I'm coming back how many times? 3 to 5 minimum to enroll. So I become part of that household. Let's see, which room do you want? Oh, by the way, bring the pie. You know. So I got to a point after that. He says, "Well, I have another pie." They say, "Thanks, Doug, pie guy." He says, and so I said, would you prefer me to hand deliver it to someone of your neighbors who's having a tough time, and I'll say it's from you to give me as a pick-me-up? And what do you think they said?
Absolutely.
And so what did I do in my little outfit? Now the other neighbors then would start calling ahead of time. You know, I'm going with this pie in my outfit. Oh, he robbed that house, now he's gonna go rob another one. We're like a baker, right?
Say it again.
And so I'd ring the doorbell, and I'd still be at this position, and they had no idea. You know, think about baker's outfit, pie. He'd open the door, and they just don't know reaction. And I said, "Oh, by the way, we have a mutual friend. Our mutual friend is Matt. Matt asked me to personally give you a pick-me-up with his favorite pie, an apple pie. May I present this to you?" What are they going to do? They're going to take it, and I leave. I don't do anything else, because what is Matt going to do with this person?
I'm calm.
Personal call back.
Without question, say, "Oh my gosh, Matt, this was just tremendous pie. How did you think of me like that?" What is triggering in that neighborhood? What's happening?
People are talking
Service.
Service. All right. What I was taught when I was 22 by my father, I'm going to share with you. One is he told me people don't care how much you know until you show them how much you care. How true is that statement, first of all? Really true, is it not? But he taught me the greatest lesson by giving me a quote and then having me memorize that quote. I'm going to give you that quote because he told me, he said, "Son, the way to succeed being self-employed is to have a servant's heart." Is that not true? Here's the quote that he gave. He said, "Son, memorize this because if you apply this, you'll succeed all the days in your career." He said, "When you are in the service of your fellow beings, you're only in the service of your God." What was my father trying to teach me? Remember, he's the Army officer, he served with General Patton, he saw a ton of death, right? He not only inflicted death, but he saw a lot of death. But he told me, when you're in the service of your fellow beings, you're only in the service of your God. What is it as a servant's heart? If you are truly serving your client, who are you serving? Because you're doing what? You're doing it the right way. You're not trying to be that commission dude, hit and run. You're actually trying to do what's right by serving that client. Is that not true? So my father gave me the greatest quote, and I've tried to apply that and also in my teaching, because what did I say your potential is? Unlimited. How is it unlimited? How is it unlimited? I need to sneak past you. Thank you for coming. So How is your potential unlimited? If you have what type of heart? Servant's heart. And if you apply that servant's heart and understand that that quote that my father gave me is literally real, then what can you have as a motivation to help others succeed? Isn't your elevation of doing it right? But in order to do it right, you must have systems, and you must take ownership of those systems. And ownership in anything is never as important as control. So if you're going to own your system, you must control it by living it. That's the key. Is that not true? Everything I've taught, you have that you can review over and over and over again. You'll only succeed to the limit of having a chance to increase your revenues 50% on a yearly basis by taking the ownership. I will give you real live people that we have done the test on who's actually doing it. Christy Stone in a little city called Pocatello, Idaho. Does anyone know where Pocatello, Idaho is? Well, if you put a dot and you went through it, you've already gone through it that many times. I mean, it is podunk, little. Her first year after doing the training, and she says, I will take ownership. She made more her first year with ASB than she did as a manager with a former company that we have a lot with. I won't mention his names. Make his life. No, I won't do that. Okay, but she made more in 1 year than she had made 5 previous years combined. The second year, she doubled her income. The third year, she did it again. What do you think she has about the systems? How important are these systems for her? What do you think she does when it comes to referrals and recommendations?
Gives pies.
But what is she getting?
More referrals.
More referrals and recommendations. I will give you one of the other gals that I did a mentoring program on 2.5 years ago. This is how much annuity she did every month. How much is that? Zero. I said, would you like to get to $1 million a month? Now what do you think she said with that, first of all?
I can't do it.
That's with the first comment, and I asked again, would you like to do $1 million a month? Then she said what?
Okay.
All right? She said, went from, I can't do that, I'd like to do that. She says, well, how do you do that? He says, we're going to teach you a system, but if you follow the system, I can get you to that. Last month she hit $1 million a month. But she started 18 months, so 6 months in a row, she's now hit how much a month? That's one gal. Okay? Now, she has made the change from the captive to another side, but the key was she learned what? The system. And found out, though, that she has to move back because what did she lack? Sometimes when we succeed, what happens? We get what?
Lazy.
We get lazy, and we just now say, well, I don't need what? I don't need to follow the system because, wow, I'm there. I'm happening. Then they leave and they're going, oh crap, I'm back to what?
The system.
Yeah, I need to go back to the system, all right? That's when you really take ownership and when you work that. So having a chance to make sure that you do the referrals or recommendations. If you do, I promise you that you will find that you will get the 3 to 5. And doing the pies, how much fun do you think you can make that in presenting that to your clients? It's an absolute hoot, isn't it? And that's what I can promise you is you will grow your business to sizes you cannot comprehend. But you have to take the ownership of the systems which you taught. Now if you notice, yes, we went and explained all the moving parts of annuities and what to do, but what did we really try to share with you today? Is to do what with your businesses? Grow them. Annuities is only one of the many to grow. Because the most important, how many minimum enrollments should be in every home, not every 10th home or every other home. How many minimum? 3 to 5. Those of you who are at 1 or 2, 3 to 5 will make your life totally different. And that's one of those 3 to 5 can surely become an annuity. And that's why I spent so much time on the annuities. But the key is learning the systems, learning the words, learning the phrases, making them become you. And as you do that, then you will succeed. But only then. I was able to learn the systems and then be able to apply them and to do all the wrong things along the way so that we were able to have a system that is duplicatable 100% of the time. In any city, any state. So I was grateful I made all the mistakes along the way. But what it gave me a chance to do is when I teach, I can teach what to do and what not to do. And yet I now live those systems still today and in my own personal production and doing that in spare time. I'll share with you how I got into business just for fun, because that can appreciate that, you know, we all come into the business different ways, did we not? We didn't all come in the same way, did we? Well, 5th grade, believe it or not, I wrote down 2 sets of goals. That's when my father said, son, something is wrong with you. He said that when I was 5th grade. I mean, how good is that to have from your dad? Something's wrong with you. But in 5th grade, I wrote down 2 goals. 1, to become a general, or 2, to go in the FBI. Now think about it. A 5th grader writing that down is one of their goals. Something's wrong, right? But I did. So when I got in high school, I thought, you know, if not becoming a general or going to the FBI, I'll be a teacher. That's a good goal, because I had, you know, my mother, 5th grade, father, professor. When I was in college playing ball, I wrote down also a coach. So I was truly covered. You know, I had all types of goals. And I had written them all down, and I knew one of them should work. Then I got hurt playing ball, and I described what I looked like, because this is always fun. I was from California, so I used to be blonde. Believe it or not, I wasn't. And I had hair down the middle of my back, in a ponytail. All right? So visualize me in a ponytail. Yeah, pretty frightening. But I had a Fu Manchu, and I had the old disease called the neck disease, where the head is just attached to the shoulder, because your neck is what direction? This way. And I had that disease, you know, that neck, and I had the giant coattail, Fu Manchu. Had a 52-inch chest, only 5'9½". I'm only 5'9" now, so I lost, you know, a whole half an inch. And so I looked like that. And then when I got my left foot that visited my left thigh, wrong direction. It took me a year to rehab, and I chipped my tailbone off after rehabbing for a whole year. So my opportunity to play ball was very difficult. And I already lost the opportunity to play baseball because I blew out my shoulder and my elbow. That's why I played college football. I knew I could still get my education paid for, but then I got hurt. So then I became a wussy. You know, I knew I couldn't do that. That's when I picked up golf. I go, that's a great game. You know, who's going to hurt you in golf, right? Unless you get hit by somebody, or you hit somebody, and they hit you with the club. You know, that could be hazardous. So what had happened was, looking like this, I had a gentleman in my community, used to watch all the games of the kids. He was just an unbelievable older gentleman. He comes up to me, and here I am looking like I'm looking. And he said, you know, Doug, may I make a suggestion what you should do? I'm looking at him like, you got to be kidding. You come to the games, what suggestion? He says, you would make a great missionary. Now, what do you think? I didn't use colorful words, but what do you think I told this guy? Have a great day. All right? He came back another time. He said the same thing, so I told him again, have a great day. So the 3rd time he came back, I knew I could get his goat. I says, now, Fred, how much are you going to pay me for 2 years? He says, absolutely nothing. And I go, what do you think I said? I wasn't as colorful then, but you know, I just looked at him like, you got to be freaking kidding. You want me to go somewhere away, 2 years, and you're going to pay me nothing. Do I have this right? He says, yes, that's what I think you could do. Give me that. The guy was really persistent, so believe it or not, I cut my hair, cut the Fu Manchu, and I was gone for 2 years. And when I came back, my father wanted to return a report. Now remember, my father served with which general? Patton. So how do you think my father would react when this return a report session? He said, sit down. So what do you think I did?
Sat down.
Without question, I sat down. Now I'll give you a couple statistics about Patton, how it applies to our field. Now General Patton had the highest kills of any general. Now that's not a good thing if you're a German, right? Number 2, he had the highest wounded per soldier who came against him. First 2 choices really are not looking good, right? Death or wounded. Number 3, he had the highest MIAs, missing in action. But they found out that most of them, mission in action, just left the general they were fighting for and found another general to fight with. It's not a good one if you're the general fighting against General Patton, right? But the other one that they had was dealing that they were just lost. They couldn't find him. So those are not real good choices, right? And here's my dad telling me to sit down, and so I did. I sat down. He says, let's go over your goals. Yes, sir. Go over your goals. First one, he says, what was your first goal? Remember I told you that something was wrong with you in 5th grade? I said, yes, sir. To become a general. He stopped me. He says, I serve with General Patton. I'm an officer. I said, yes, sir. That's why I wrote that down. He says, you have the wrong personality. That's out. Okay, that was out. And he said, well, the FBI. My cousin at that time was the number 3 man in charge of the terrorist program for the FBI. That was my cousin. His son is now in charge of the terrorist program for the FBI. So I have a father, son, that's my cousin's nephew. And I told him the FBI, and what do you think my dad said? You had the wrong personality, and that's out. So I figured that out, 0 for 2. And then I said, well, the next one was to be a teacher. As soon as I said, well, I can become a teacher, Dad, he said, do you know your mother's a teacher? And I said, yes, my mom's a 5th grade teacher, I know that. I'm a professor. And I said, yes, I've been to some of your class before. You had the wrong personality. It's out. Okay, not a problem. So I'm now 0 for 4, right? Then I thought the last one would be, what was that last one I told you in college? I decided to be a coach. So I started saying coach. And as soon as it said coach, he did this. And I knew, does that mean, Dad, it's out? He said, yes, that's out. You have the wrong personality. And I said, well, what should I do? He said, son, there's only one thing you can do. I said, what's that? Become self-employed. I said, what's self-employed? He says, well, that's what you have to become. Well, why? Because no one's going to hire you, son. Now, after that pep talk, think about that. That was a great pep talk. But what did he want me to understand? I needed to become what? Self-employed. And then he laughed and he said, son, I did that to get your goat on that one, but let me explain why self-employed. And that's when he gave me that quote. And when he said, people don't care about how much you know until you show nothing, and have a servant's heart, he said, if you will focus with an opportunity to become self-employed, where you can serve others, and that's when he gave me that quote of when you're in service of your fellow beings, you're only in service of your God. He says, if you will take me up and find employment that you can learn to truly serve, you will have the opportunity that your potential is what?
Unlimited.
What is your potential?
Unlimited.
Just exactly what my father told me. Your potential in this field is totally unlimited. The only limit you have is what you put on yourself. But if you learn systems that helps you through those limits, you take ownership of the systems that you learn and you apply them, then your potential is unlimited. Well, my father passed away just before I got into business, which I would have loved to have him see that I pursued what he was trying to teach me. And even though he would say that out, he was having fun with me. And I didn't know that until later when I said, Dad, did you really mean I could not have anyone employed? He says, no, but you work too hard. And people don't like if you work too hard for others. And I said, wasn't that a good thing? He says, but self-employed, that's a real good thing. Because who controls your schedule?
We do.
That's right, you do. And if you control your schedule, you can own it. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
Do not let your clients own your schedule. You need to own your schedule. How you do that is having systems of ways to communicate with them on all the aspects of the value finding to help them understand how you can help them get their benefits. And if you can help them get their benefits, honestly, what would prevent them from enrolling in a program if you could offer them the benefits that they find valuable? Is there anything? That's why your potential is unlimited, and being able to do that. With the time that we had and being together, I hope that you could see that there are systems that you can take into your own lives, and then you're increasing of 50% is not just for 1 year, it's every year you wish to apply the things that you've learned and have fun at it. As you can probably tell, I love what I do. 37 years, I still have a passion. When my wife comes in and she stays different times and watches, at the end she says, you really like what you're doing. He says, you actually love it. He says, I still love it. Because I have a chance now to give back and help others succeed. That is the greatest high that there is helping others succeed. You need to apply that in working with your clients. You have the ability, talents to help them get the benefits that they find of value. Only you control that for them. And if you understand that principle, then it's much easier to really try to take ownership of the systems that you run. I appreciate, without, you cannot imagine how much fun I've had with you and a chance to meet you individually and collectively. For this I know. There's nothing you cannot do. Potential. Some of the